Do you ever wonder what happened to your friends from high school? I mean, you were so close. You laughed together, you cried together, you shared some of the best years of your lives together. And yet, somehow through life, you just lost touch. Now it's time to relive those moments once again. Introducing the podcast that takes you back in time to the place where it all began. This is Class Reunion. We're bringing you all the gossip, secrets, and scandals from your high school days that you won't want to miss. Join us as we catch up with old classmates and dive into the wildest stories from our high school days. From those legendary parties to the infamous cliques, we're spilling all the tea on who's who and what really went down. So grab a seat, turn your volume up, and get ready for a trip down memory lane. Class Reunion, the podcast that reunites us all. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Class Reunion. I have with me today Jim Swaim, and we are going to go down the memory lane of spring break. So buckle up, get your Penrod's mug, and see if you can remember some of the stories that we're about to recall from being in Fort Lauderdale in 84. So thank you so much, Jim, for joining me today. It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you, Leanne. It's great to watch all the great videos you're doing, and I want to say hello to everyone.
Yeah. So the irony is I reached out to Jim about the reunion, and because I'm in Florida, obviously spring break is on top of mind. And all of a sudden, I just happened to mention to Jim, like, do you remember spring break? I want to do an episode about Penrod's. Then Jim said, well, I was just in Fort Lauderdale, so we're going to get into that. And then his memory bank, so he's got things written down. I was like, how weird did we get on that subject? And then you have all these memories from Fort Lauderdale. So it was perfect to actually reconnect with you on that subject, because you're going to be able to share so much more than what I even remember. So the first thing is, how we even found out hotel rooms to stay at is beyond me. Like, I don't remember. I feel like there was a little book, a Florida book, you know, with the old ads that they had. I feel like we had one in my house because we had previously, you know, as a child, we went down to Fort Myers a lot with my family. I feel like I had one of those maybe old AAA books, but how in the heck people found hotels is crazy. There wasn't the internet.
I don't honestly remember how we figured out where we were going to stay. I stayed when I went down to Fort Lauderdale with Scott Bender and Dave Abella and Paul Levine. I think it was either Scott or Dave got a hold of some sort of coupon deal where we could stay at a hotel, like a really nice hotel, cheaply. But beyond that, I don't remember how we got to the second place, which was a hole in the wall.
Yes. So you drove down, correct?
That was part of the adventure of the whole thing. We drove in a yellow 1972 Gran Torino that we called the Bender Mobile. Scott Bender had purchased this thing, I think, for around $600. It was a beat up old car. It had a block of wood holding up the battery, no power steering. And that trip was an adventure in and of itself. I mean, we got pulled over twice. Once in Ohio when Dave Abella was driving. We made it maybe, 2 hours into the trip, and he got pulled over. And then we got pulled over again in Georgia for weaving. The police officer thought we were drunk. We weren't. We'd just been driving for like 20 hours. Right. And so nothing became of that. But
did you get a ticket in Ohio?
Nope. Oh, in Ohio, but not in Georgia. But we made it to Florida, like just across the border the first day. And then we went the rest of the way the next day.
Which is where you learn geography really fast, which is Florida is not a small state. Like, it looks like it's easy to get down, but that's like a whole nother 8 hours to get down to Fort Lauderdale.
We were on a mission. I remember hearing at the time that somebody had made it in 24 hours. I think they had just driven straight through and traveled at a high rate of speed. Yeah. And I don't know that was our mission to make it all the way the first day, but we were going to make it to the border.
And did you have beer in the car when you were pulled over?
No.
Okay.
We were
not
good.
Yet. Yeah. I mean, I probably not, but it also shows, like, even at that time, it wasn't the one thing they were looking for in the car. They just probably saw a bunch of young kids speeding to spring break. I flew, and you were all down there. A lot of people, I should say, were down there earlier because you did drive. A lot of people drove. And Nancy Royal Crouch now, we went 3 days later. Well, 3 days is a long time to join in on a party already in progress, you know? And we went to this hotel room that was on the strip, and it had a pool in the middle. So, of course, in the brochure, it looked fantastic. And we came in, and no one was in the pool. It was a huge Harley had been driven into the water in the pool. And then we get keys to the hotel room, and there's a pair of whitey tighties, or like white guys' underwear, on top of the lampshade stretched over, and a couple of other pairs that had been collected in 3 days, had been collected. And the toilet was overflowing with poop. It was disgusting. Hadn't been able to be flushed. No maintenance in sight, because I'm sure they could care less. And one person was in jail already in our room. And Nancy and I looked at each other like, I don't know how to join in on this. That's already a party in progress. Like, it was just so bizarre. So we were walking up and down the strip with our suitcases. And that's when we ran into like Allison Shapiro and Kim Stone, who offered for us to stay in their room. And that's actually how our friendship with them began, because we weren't close to them at the time to make that trip down with a core group of friends. Like, it was just Nancy and I. So even when I talked to her today, we're like trying to figure out how we got invited to some of these rooms, because we weren't super close with a lot of them. It was just funny. It was funny. But that was my introduction to Fort Lauderdale, day one.
I remember it being nuts when we arrived. And I don't know if you recall, but our spring break was a little bit later than it is now. We started driving April 19th. We didn't get back to Michigan until May 1st. So it was pretty late in the season.
How did you financially? That's the other thing. Where did we get money? Like, I know my parents didn't spot me the whole trip. Like, I could only babysit so much that I mean, we must have eaten like ramen, or, you know what I mean? We saved all the money for beer. I don't recall having a lot of money to buy groceries or food or anything like that.
I think we ran out pretty much by the end, but no,
you needed gas to get home.
Prices were pretty cheap at the time, and
that's
you
true.
could get good deals. They were, I don't know how these places stayed in business, but yeah, when we got down there, as I said, we stayed the first couple of days at a really nice place called the Bahama Mama. It's like a Hilton property now. We stayed 2 nights. I think Dave or Scott got a deal where you could stay 2 nights for the price of one. And nowadays it'd be like $1,000 for 2 nights. But we got some sort of deal, stayed there for 2 days at the southern end of the strip, and then moved up to this dive called the Merrimack, some 2-story hotel from the 1960s with a rectangular pool in the middle that was the wrong color. And, same no type chlorine. Of deal. I think we had to borrow a plunger to fix the toilet. I mean, it was like just a bad deal, but that's where we stayed the rest of the time. And it was in a good location, not too far from Penrod's and all that. And anyway, but it was just, kids had taken over the city.
Oh, crazy. So we're going to compare it to now, but in a different way they took over. And so let's go to Penrod's, because that's the classic. And you were just there, so you can vouch for the fact that it's still there. I remember I was so sunburned. So I remember getting the tank top, the Penrod's tank top. And then, why do I feel like we brought that plastic mug every time we went back? Was that the thing? Like, you got a quarter beer, and I just remember carrying that plastic Penrod's mug, and you brought it with you. Oh, wait a minute. You didn't get in because of your ID.
No,
right?
I got in, but a couple times. But when we got the mug, it was $7, and you got a T-shirt, a mug, I think free drinks for a certain period of time. But at some point, the mug got confiscated.
But you are exactly right. That's how I got the T-shirt. I forgot it was okay. That's wild. God, you have a good memory. That is good. So that was a daily occurrence. I mean, I remember going every single day. We'd lay out at the pool and go happy hour, whenever, I can't remember. But yeah, and that's where you met up with everybody. Like, it was the time to connect again with everybody.
Yeah, if you could get into Penrod's, that was ground zero. I'll talk about, I just saw that place again at the end of January. That was crazy. It was surreal, really.
All you can eat and drink.
We moved over to a place. I mean, there were several places, but I remember meeting up with a lot of our classmates at a place called Bahama Mama's,
Yes.
which was about a block north of Penrod's, maybe 2 blocks north of Penrod's.
Yeah.
All that's gone now, but Bahama Mama's was a little bit easier to get into, had a good crowd. When we got down there, we would go to the beach. We'd wake up around 11:30, go to the beach, hang out at the beach, go swimming, and then get back to the hotel, prepare for the evening, go visit friends, and other people from Groves were staying all over the place. People from Seaholm, people from Lathrop, we would see in different hotels. We were just going over and like visiting and hanging out with them.
Yeah.
And then we would go out. And Bahama Mama's, for me and for our crew, became the go-to place. I can't tell. I probably saw 20 students from Groves there.
I forgot about that place for sure, because that's where the drink came from, right? It was kind of like a rum runner, right? Wasn't it? I just remember there was an hour or so where the women drank free, the girls drank free. And I was like, that would never fly now, number one, because everyone would be roofied. But we also were like, is there any alcohol in here, really? Like, when you think about it, how dumb were we to think? Yeah,
Debatable.
You know what I mean? Like,
it was
maybe
$3.
a little bit. Yeah.
$3 to get in.
Okay.
This was at Bahama Mama. $3 to get in.
Yeah.
Free drinks from 7 to 9.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't just women. It was everybody.
Everybody.
So there's no way, Jim, that there was a lot. I mean, we didn't need it, but there's no way they did that with that much alcohol in there.
No, there was watered down whiskey sours or whatever they were serving.
Yes, exactly. Oh my gosh, that's funny. So Penrod's is still in existence today, same name. What other changes, like what do you remember that was still there when you just went?
Well, no. So fast forward to 2024 and I'm down there for a work conference and I'm in a second floor conference room and I'm looking down at the awning for Penrod's and I'm in the building that used to be like, I think a Sheraton and now it is the Fort Lauderdale Westin Beach Resort.
Oh my
and
gosh.
Penrod's, in true fashion for 2024, is now a Starbucks.
Oh, wait a minute. Did you send me that picture?
Penrod's is long gone.
Oh.
They still remember it there. The older people do. I talked to some bellhop and he was like, oh my gosh, I've heard so many great stories from back in the day.
Yeah.
From some older guy that still works around there. But no, Penrod's is no more. It's just a Starbucks at the lower level of this resort.
Oh my gosh, that makes me sad.
But the awning is still there. The patio where everybody would hang out is still there.
Oh, that's the picture I saw. I guess I didn't think it was a Starbucks. I thought you were just sending me a picture of Penrod's. Yeah, it is the same structure, everything.
Yep, they just changed the name.
And the floor was always sticky and full of beer. Stunk so bad. It was crazy. And you're right, because some of the pictures, Nancy's been sending me pictures while we're talking. We did go to different rooms and have parties and take pictures. I mean, that was what you did. You room hopped for sure. That was classic.
We had friends of ours that stayed from Groves that stayed at the Mariner. We were in the Merrimack. There was another place called the Mariner.
Okay.
Tell you a quick story about that. So we went over to visit some friends over there. I'm not positive as to everybody that was there, but I think it was David Schmitz and Alex Lowy and Chris Smith. And I think Greg Jones maybe had a room over there. So we went just to say hi to them or whatever. I mean, that hotel looked like a frat house. It was like something out of Animal House. And I remember I went over there to visit him and I was waiting for David to come back from like a store or somewhere he was at. And there were kids running around the roof lighting off fireworks.
Oh my gosh.
And not them, but like some just random kids were up there, right, lighting off fireworks. I mean, how would that go over today? I don't think too well.
Would not at all. And I also said to you, like, how did we all get these hotel rooms? Because, even when it was our time to book, like for prom and stuff, you had to be 18 or over 18 or something. I mean, and everything's a credit card now. Like you can't do anything without having a credit card as your deposit. So did we pay cash? I can't even remember. Like that's a lot of young kids booking hotel rooms without parents. Like how did they even get paid?
I'm assuming cash, but I don't.
Yeah, it would
remember.
have to have been. We didn't walk around with American Express at that time.
No. But
That's
it was neat because it was almost like before college, but a sort of a college experience in that we were visiting people in other
Yeah.
other hotels. And, some of our students were staying at the Howard Johnson's. Remember Howard
Oh
Johnson's
my
or Hojo's?
gosh. Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and just all over the place. There were people we knew at a place called the Tiki Inn. There was one that called the Biltmore. I think a lot of Seahome students were staying in that place. That was like a high rise almost, maybe 5 stories or something.
I feel like I was in there, but there was still bathroom issues in that hotel too. I know it was nice and fancy, but there were some that didn't flush there either. What was wrong with the sewer system? I don't know. Everyone seemed to
have
have
300,000 students, coming down for a
I
couple of
know.
weeks in Fort Lauderdale. Couldn't handle it.
And we shoved people in rooms. So we didn't have, it wasn't like, oh, we're going to all share a bed. There were mattresses on the floor. You could sleep in a chair. You didn't care. It wasn't like we were living high on the hog in terms of accommodations. We crammed as many as we could in the hotel room. Well, I do have a confession, which sounds like a loser, but both Nancy and I were so miserable in the beginning. Because like I said, one person's in jail, the toilet's disgusting. So we both called our parents from a payphone and said we wanted to come home. I mean, how embarrassing. We wanted to leave spring break where we should be enjoying ourselves. But we were, like I said, it was just such a party in progress. Listen, we caught up. We ended up having a really good time. But that first couple days, you feel so out of it. Well, everyone knew their way around. Everyone had already gotten their T-shirts from Penrod's. Like we just were trying to join in on a party that was already taking place. And we couldn't do it because, and we were laughing about this morning. Like both our parents said, you need to stay down there. Like who would do that nowadays? They said, you need to stay down and you're not coming home because we were going to have to pay a whole nother ticket. Like you couldn't, that whole changing flights back then didn't happen, and so they weren't going to pay for another full priced airfare to come back home. So they both told us to suck it up and like stay down there. How bizarre.
Credit to them though, that they got you down there. They didn't trust you sticking you in some old car. How the heck we made it back, I don't know.
And we had a convertible. I don't know who, I think it might have been Lori Magdal's car or Allison Shapiro, but somebody there's a really cool picture I'll have to post when we put all this together. But, that was the cool thing. It still is, but we're going to have to talk about how it's so weird now. But we had a beautiful convertible that we went up and down all the time. And that was also, sure you took your car. You had a classic.
I did not. I don't remember going on the Bender mobile up and down the strip, but Ian McKenzie had a nice Riviera.
Okay.
And so I remember kind of cruising the strip with Ian.
Of course, Riviera. That's such a nice, long, comfortable car, right? Oh my gosh. I have to get Ian on that. That's hilarious. Yeah. And so you talk about today, because I'm here. Everyone sees the news, but I'm also here. So I get to see a lot of it like up close all the time. Lauderdale is weird because this was pure joy for us. Like it wasn't malicious with each other. We were having a great time. We saw people from different schools. Now, if you drive up and down the strip, people throw stuff at you. So now they're lobbying like drinks and beer cans at these people who are just trying to drive the strip. That's bizarre to me. And then they clear it at night, or I think at like midday a couple times with horses and police cars on the beach and get everybody off. It is so different now. And I don't get why anyone would find joy in going there when it's more of like a hostile environment. You know what I mean? It's really crowded and there's always fights.
I want to say for the most part, it was just good, clean fun, that we didn't, I saw some fights, but it wasn't anything serious.
No.
People were just there to have a good time. And we'd go dancing at night. I don't know if kids go dancing anymore, but that was our thing. I did that for years. We would go out and go, go to Canada or Windsor or wherever and go dance and just meet people and go dancing.
Yeah.
And so that's what we would do at night. Go to these places like Bahama Mamas or whatever and just meet people. We meet people from all over the world.
Over.
And then see people that we knew. It was kind of strange because we had all these classmates that went down and stayed in hotels that were within a half mile of one another.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a lot of fun. I have a lot of fond memories of that trip, and it has changed. The candy store, which was south of Penrod's by a couple of blocks, is now a Ritz-Carlton. Bahama Mama's is now either, I think it's like a Hilton. I couldn't tell exactly because it's all changed. It's all like big mega hotels now.
Mm-hmm.
It's either a Hilton, maybe a Marriott.
I forgot about the candy store, Jim. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, just all these places all the small hotels are gone, and they're replaced by these $50 million mega hotels along the beach. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But it's different.
And we talked about the comparison to now a little bit, like how it is in Lauderdale now in Daytona. And even poor Jacksonville, they had like a bunch of shootings this spring break. I think there was 7 in one day, which is wild to me. But you have children, and we talked about spring break of today, like families go. What did your kids do for spring break? Because I've been on cruises with friends. Like it's now, luxury resorts and the families go. Did you do that with your kids too?
I just got back from spring break. Now my kids are older. One's in law school, one's at Purdue.
Okay.
So we went to Las Vegas as a family.
Oh,
and we
wow.
did like Hoover Dam and Valley of Fire and that sort of thing.
Did you do the Sphere? Was the Sphere available?
I saw it, but I did not go into it.
Yeah.
It looks fabulous.
Yeah.
No, we just ran around Las Vegas and rented a car and went outside and did some things and just had a family spring break. We've always done that with them. We've always done a family spring break. I know that we had some friends that had like a formal sort of go down and have a party spring break, but the parents went with. It was like they were chaperones.
Right.
Very different.
Yeah,
now.
That's true. I think it was Cancun. Like I do remember. So I left Michigan, but I still had a lot of friends in Troy. And so their kids did do the all-inclusive and then let the kids do their thing, but they were still there. I think it was like, you say chaperone, but I think they wanted to go as well and chill out, Right. So I know they had fun. And you just can't go to a lot of these resorts. Like we just talked about this the other night at a party. I understand that Jamaica and the Bahamas right now are really tough on American tourists. And they're being robbed and drugged. That freedom of just sending your kids without you, I mean, it may seem hovering to some people, but you can't afford not to have it happen because everything has changed, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's tough because it was such an enlightening experience for me and for some of my friends. But, so you want them to have the same thing, but, we just did a family thing.
Yeah. You really can't. So do you remember anything else of like the drama? So I did tell you that, one person was arrested, but I don't want to keep dwelling on that, but I remember it was also the first time that I partied with a lot of people that I didn't normally. So, there's all these different cliques and different groups. Like I mentioned to you, I was with Alison Shapiro and Lori Magdell and Kim Stone. That was unusual for me to be with them. It's like it was a really weird time where you could be friends with everybody. Like that whole, clique thing didn't apply. You spoke with everybody. At least I did. I remember talking to a lot of different people.
Definitely.
So is this a son or a daughter who's in law school currently?
My daughter, she's a 2L at William and Mary down in Virginia.
Oh, nice. And so did she she saw what you did and really wanted to follow in your footsteps, or?
I can't imagine. I can't imagine that. But she's really happy in law school. She likes law school.
What do you practice and what do you think she'll focus on?
So I do civil litigation defense. So if you see these advertisements with like the Bernstein law firm and Jeff Feiger and those, the personal injury law firms, I'm on the other side of the table from them. So I defend people who've been sued. She has some experience at working for some firms that do that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. She's looking at a couple of different things. She's really interested in artificial intelligence and privacy law, which is kind of growing. I think probably in the next 10 years, that's just expanding right now. Mm-hmm. Obviously. It would. And then, so we'll see. She's not really settled yet on what she's going to do, but she's just getting good experience right now. She's going to work for a firm down in Virginia this summer. And
nice.
Then my son he's a first year student studying engineering at Purdue. So he's like completely different path.
Okay. And then how did you choose your focus in law? Like, I always wonder, could I Do I want to be the prosecutor or defense attorney? Like, they both have merit. And so how did you come to that conclusion of what you wanted to do?
Yeah, I wanted to be a prosecutor when I started out. I never wanted to do criminal defense, but I wanted to prosecute. I ended up going into civil instead of criminal, so a different field.
Okay.
Just because that's where the job offer was. I decided in 10th grade that I was going to be an attorney, that was what I was going to go into. So I was lucky in the sense that when I went off to college, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And I wasn't like trying to figure out what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I knew at that point.
See, I always envied people that knew they wanted to have a specific degree in something, whether medical or whatever. Did you take the court case class? Was it Mr. Buck that did the?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Where he went over the Scopes trial, and I think he just went over a bunch of different cases.
A lot of made me think, really.
Yep.
That's when I first learned that there are two sides to a story, and somewhere the truth lies in the middle. He was very good at getting you to think.
That was a great class.
Wasn't it? All possibilities to a case. And not that was totally instrumental, but how did you even come up with that concept that that's what you wanted to do?
Well, I mean, I think part of it was I enjoyed debate. We had like a debate team at Groves, believe it or not. And so I was on that with Scott Bender and Steve Level and Daphne Boros. And there were just there was a really good group.
The smart people
on there.
Yes.
We got along very well. We traveled around the state to different tournaments and I really enjoyed it, did well in it. So it seemed like a good fit. And then teachers had inspired me. Other students had inspired me that I saw that I thought were really good.
Yeah.
At doing that sort of thing. Scott Bender wanted to be a lawyer at the time. Craig Russell, I always thought he was just really outstanding. Just people that I thought, I want to be more like that. Right.
Yes. That's awesome. Didn't we win something on one of the tournaments? I feel like our debate team.
I think we finished, I don't know, 6th or something like that in the state.
Okay.
We were pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah.
Seaholm was very good too. And our teacher was he was like the instructor for Seaholm and for Groves.
Who was that?
I just saw his name recently. He's still teaching somewhere, or he's like a principal of some school somewhere.
Oh my gosh.
Believe it or not. I can't think of his name. Maybe he'll come to me.
Well, when I think about our teachers, like some of them we had in the very early part of their career, and so that's pretty cool too, that we had some young faculty at the time, and getting them right in prime in their career. And then they weren't so state driven, right? They could be a lot more creative in what they wanted to teach because there wasn't that state requirement. They could be a little bit more, unique in their teaching. Was there anybody that you recall having an impact besides Mr. Buck?
I remember Mr. Bauer. He was teaching like a history or government class. I liked him. He always pushed our buttons because he knew we were politically involved at the time. And so he would do things to rile us up as a class or try to get us fired up. He used to get me fired up a little bit, which was good. There was a teacher in middle school or junior high school called Mr. Bird.
Oh, yes.
And he was fabulous.
He was terrific.
Incredible
in fact,
teacher.
Do you remember when John Lennon was shot?
Yes.
And Janine Lloyd and Melissa Manhart painted on the window. Do you remember that?
I don't remember them painting on the window, but I remember
he allowed them, because it was his era too. Like he was kind of hippie-ish enough to he was really distraught, right? Really affected him. And so there was a painting, and I've asked both Janine and Melissa, and unfortunately, we didn't have selfies or cameras back then of where we documented everything. It was such a gorgeous painting, took up the whole window. And it was Mr. Bird. And then within his beard and his hair, there were things about John Lennon. Like they put all these different things within the picture of the portrait of Mr. Bird. It was stunning. I remember every day seeing something new on there. So it's too bad you don't remember that, because
that would be neat.
It was I was like, what a cool teacher to, and they would be in class, but they would, just be painting away, and what they came up with was utterly spectacular. And that's a bummer we don't have it.
He did a thing where, every class was a different state in the colony. And we were Georgia, but there was one class that was secretly not a state. It was Great Britain. and that was us. And
My gosh, Jim, I don't remember that.
He just made it interesting that way.
That is very cool. I'm going to have to go back and think if I remember what state I was. I'll have to ask
We were
them.
each assigned an individual. I mean, I was James Wolfe. He was like a general in the British Army that had attacked Quebec, the city of Quebec.
Yeah, I remember that. I'll have to think about who I was.
So he personalized it, you know.
Yeah.
I remember we had to do a contract, and Avis Nager, his dad owned a business, and so he had some legal knowledge just through the operation of a business, maybe had dealt with lawyers or whatever.
Yeah.
So Avis says, well, we're going to put like, this is void, you know, somewhere in the contract. And like, that'll like mean it doesn't mean anything, you know.
That's hilarious. That is a great memory. Oh my gosh. Oh, well, that's awesome. And then do you remember, much about graduation? I thought our graduation was great. I was so excited. It was like a rite of passage to go to Meadowbrook. Like that was a really cool place to have our graduation. And I don't know if how long they continue to carry that tradition. I'm sure it stopped after a while, but did you have a great memory of graduation?
Well, that whole summer, but yes, I remember graduation. I remember being at the high school and preparing for graduation where we had to line up and like practice walking across the stage.
Yes.
Once or twice.
Yes.
And then we actually did it.
Yes.
And it was a nice day, I remember.
Yeah. Beautiful day.
And I just remember the summer after it. It was just, there were constant parties.
The goodbyes went on forever.
So much fun.
Yeah, we were always like, I'm not going to see you. Oh my goodness, there's the drama and all of that. But we made it sound like colleges were neons away, and I have to give a shout out to I started at Central Michigan, but I finished at Oakland University, which a lot of people don't know. I'm a graduate of Oakland University, and then they just broke the bracket. So, right, exactly, right. It was like, you're a Grizzly? I said, heck yeah, I am. Yeah, it was great. And what I loved about that college was the professors were in their field. So Neil Shine actually was in the Free Press. He was the editor of the Free Press at the time. And he always won a lot of awards. He was a great, and so talk about debate and everything. He would tell you a story and give you the background and say, now, how would you approach writing this story? Who would you interview? What would you have as your angle? And I was wrong. This is why I wasn't a journalist. I was wrong nine times out of 10. Like, he was teaching you to be a detective. He was trying to tell you to say, here's the storyline, which now nobody does it this way. They all take the storyline and make sensational headline. They don't care about the truth. But he was really tenacious on giving you a storyline and seeing what you would come up with. And when the article actually came out, because he would show it on the screen, we were all so off. We were so far off on what was really the truth of the story. He was excellent. So I just remember a lot of those professors were either in broadcast journalism or right in their field. It was pretty incredible. So, well, I love this memory lane. It was a lot of fun. And here's to Penrod's, right?
Here's to Penrod's. Elbow Room is the only place that stands, that's still there at the southern end of the strip. Everything else is basically gone, but the memories remain. Good memories. They do. I can't wait to see you at the reunion. Hopefully you're going to be there. Please register. It would be great. I'd love to see you. But thank you for this time. I really, really appreciate it. Definitely. I look forward to seeing everyone. All right. Well, thanks, Jim. Have a great rest of the weekend. You too. All right, friends. That's it for this episode of Class Reunion Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show, write us a review, and share this podcast with a friend. Until next time.